Welcome to my Hebrew channel, Miel, and we're looking at Ruth 2, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Four verses. The first two or three verses are just simple greetings or verses that express what people are doing or where they're going, that kind of thing. Keep it fairly simple, fairly straightforward Hebrew there. Verse 7, that one's a challenge for translating. It has a tremendous meanings to it, but it takes a little work to find the meanings of the Hebrew here, and the way it's written is very interesting. If you're going to have if you have a Bible program with numerous Bible versions on it, like New American Standard or Revised Standard or King James or just NIV or something like that, you start comparing those translations, you're going to see a lot of variety because there are numerous words that can go in different directions. So that's one of the reasons for learning Hebrew. Just find out why why that happens. Why do translators have to translate in different ways? Because when they're looking at a passage, they're looking for the straightforward. This is what it really means. Translation, and sometimes that's a little bit difficult. So we'll get to that. Verse 7, it does have its translation issues, so it is still a very beautiful passage, beautiful message in it. We just have to work on understanding what that message is. So work on how this should be translated then. Of course, let's get on to the study, and we're going to do this in English first. So if you're simply living in the English world, fine, stick with the first part of it. And then after the English portion, I'm going to get into the Hebrew, and then in the end, we'll just do a simple Hebrew reading of it with the explanations as we see it in the Hebrew language. So, starting with English, here we go. And behold, this is King James determined this is the best way to handle the Greek word hine. In newer translations, and I have a little harder time sorting this one. And then it's behold, and hey, take a look, or then it so happened, and so forth. Behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem. First time we see his personage is mentioned in the first verse as belonging to the family of Elimelech, but here he is. Finally, we see him in action. Boaz came from Bethlehem, and he said to the reapers, Shirim, Jehovah be with you. Okay? Yehovah imachem. And they answered, Yehovah Yevarecha. They answered back to him. These are very simple greetings. In fact, some of them are very similar to what you'd even hear in the second one is here. So Yevarecha, Yahweh, Yehovah. This incidentally is the same set of words, the same greetings that starts out the sacerdotal or the Aaronic blessing of Numbers 7, number 7, 21, 22, somewhere in there. You have the blessing of Aaron's blessing. Jehovah bless you and keep you. Jehovah make his face shine upon you. Jehovah be gracious to you. And so on. Yevarcha, Yehovah, Yeshemorecha, Yehovah Yair, Vanav Alecha, Yehovah Yetze Alecha, Yeshet Shalom, and God placed peace upon you. So that's how that very well-known blessing begins here in Numbers 6, 7? No, Numbers, yeah. And that's where you'll find that. Same thing. Jehovah bless you. Then Boaz said to his young man, and this is Na'ar, Naro, and incidentally, this is the masculine form of that particular name or that particular noun. This is then the feminine form of it. You get Naro and then Nara. Okay, so you get Naro, Naro. And then Boaz said to the young man who was in charge of the reapers, who, Lahi, it's possessive here, who does she belong to? Who does she answer to? Who is responsible for her? And this very much in a Middle Eastern mindset of young women who we're still single, or any young woman, single or married. When they're single, their father or their uncle takes responsibility for them, what they're doing, where they are, who they're with, their behavior, and so forth. When they get married, of course, the husband takes that responsibility. So Very much a cultural question here. I'm not going to say, well, yeah, in this day and age, this really does sound, you know, um, way out of date. But in that day and age, in fact, still in Middle Eastern societies and Arabian societies, this is a very, very strong sense of those cultures still there. Okay, whose young woman is this? And the servant. Okay, this is again here they have a Nara, young man. Same thing here. There's actually the same word in Hebrew here, Naro, Nar. In fact, this one is his young man. This one's the servant, Nara, who is in charge of the reapers. Same thing here, charge of the reapers. Nitziv, he's on top of, in authority over the reapers. Answered, Ya'an. The word answered here is the very same Ya'an, as what we find at the last part of the first chapter. And in that portion, Naomi is complaining about just how hard Shaddai has been on her, how hard Shaddai has answered to her, has testified against her. Okay, so there the word Ya'an is it's got a lot of baggage, a lot of power. Of, oh boy, the bad Lord has been hard on me, and here it's just simple answering a question. So it's a much more even keel for Ya'an, okay, to answer back. Okay, Ya'an. She is the young incidentally, you got she got that going again here. I don't know if we've been into it before, but we'll see it again here. She is the young Moabite woman who came back from Naomi from the fields of Moab. Okay. Again, like I've said in the previous study, she never loses her title of Moabite. It's still there, front and center. Okay? She's the Na'ar Moabiyah. Okay, came back with Naomi from the fields of Yashav, from the fields of Moab. The field of, I think it's in singular in the Hebrew there. Field of Moab. This is a very uniform. Translators tend to put in their country or other thing just to vary it out a little bit. I've left it in fields so that there's a sense of, oh, there's really nothing there to go back to. It's just an open field. Fields, go back to the open fields. So you're going to go back, you can go back to an open field. Okay. So this is very much a very even way of talking about Moab here. And then she said, please let me glean. Okay, this is lakach, this to the kaf word of gathering. And then glean of gathering. And then gather, yasaf. In other words, bring it together. Okay, yasaf. This is I call this one a Joseph-based verb here. Asaf. Asaf is when you're on a. By the way, there was a family that had the family name was Asaf, the ones who were choir directors at the temple. And they were Asaf. Okay, the psalm according to Asaf, the gatherer. Okay, the director. And Asaf gathers songs and he gathers people together into a choir. Okay, so she's got both works to do, gathering things up. Well, here she is gathering among the sheaves after the reapers. Okay, the shibulim are there, and she can't really pull out of the sheaves. She can gather among the sheaves, in between the sheaves. Okay, shibulim, after the kotzrim, after the reapers. And so she came. Okay, she's very short verb here. This is a report of. This is hortatory. Please let me have a na in here. And then this is a report then of this young man. She came, and she has continued from early morning, habokar, okay? Wow, from the start of the toughest part of the morning, toughest part of the day, all the way up until now. Apparently, we're getting somewhere to the middle of the afternoon, the hottest part of the day. It doesn't say it exactly, but yeah, it's a time when somebody would really like to take a little rest here, except for a short rest in the house. Okay? How are we going to translate it? Was there a house out there in the field? Modern translations take it as shelter. The Spanish will go cobertizo, covering the shaded place and so forth. The word is beit. The word is house. And what's kind of interesting here is that this word as beit appears 5 times in the book of Ruth, and then the first 2 times It's when Naomi is telling the two daughters-in-law, go back to your mother's house, to your father's house. Okay, Beit Ima, Beit uh, uh, yeah, the father Aviha. Okay, Avich. Your father's house, your mother's house. Go back to those houses. You came back where you came from. House, not so much, yeah, as a building, but as a household, as a family. Go back to your family. Okay. Then we see house right here, right in the middle of the passage of the 4 chapters, and towards the end, somewhere about halfway through the 4th chapter, you have house of, I think it's Rachel, house of Israel, and there you have house again. But in both those cases, it's a house that is household. In other words, dynasty. Okay, not just a physical building. Here apparently is a physical building, but what the author is doing is he's anticipating stability in the life of Ruth, and so she's going to take a short rest in a place that has walls, has a covering, has a ceiling. And incidentally, if you just keep reading this particular passage here of chapter 2, you'll find out, oh, there's a place to sit, there's a place to have jars of water, there's a place to heat up some burned kernels of grain to have a snack, a place for all the male kosrim, the male reapers, and also the female servants. And so there's apparently lots of room in this place for Boaz and Ruth and a bunch of other workers. So there's space. Okay, there's a place and a space for these people. So there's quite a description of it there. So there, in some ancient translations, like the Septuagint didn't like it that there would be a house out there. In fact, in their translation, they put agro, they put field. That's it. House disappears in the translation. And the reasoning is that in Greek and Roman culture, having a house out in the field was a place where, yeah, you'd keep your mistress and evil things would get done out there and so forth. So having a field out in the house was a house out on a field was a bad thing. In Hebrew culture, no, you would have a house out in fields where grain is being grown. Why? You needed a place for storing your water, you needed a place for storing some food, you needed a place to rest, and if you were guarding your fields through the night, you wanted a place to stay. So having a house out in the fields is much more neutral. In fact, some of them, archaeologically speaking, is you'd build a house, and you wouldn't just build a house, you'd build it on one corner, but you'd have a good old tower to be able to climb to the top and look out on your field and see what's going on. So in a sense, it was a guard house. It was a place that you used for security for your field. So yeah, it's not unusual. The field's there, plenty of rocks to put things together, build up walls and stuff, plenty of palm trees and stuff around for a roof. And yeah, you would, in those countries, and even to this day, you really do like to have the shade. And so when it gets hot in the afternoon, you have a place to come and rest up. And this is apparently what Naomi was doing. Felt, how you say it, it was somewhat presumptive on her part to be there at the house. Maybe she did ask permission from the worker, but not really sure. But most certainly, when the verse 8 and so moves on, immediately the story moves to Boaz talking to Ruth, and the conversation that takes place very clearly at the house. So she's getting to feel at home, I guess is the word for it, getting to find a place where she can identify, and the whole sense of restoring stability in her life. The house is a symbol of that. Okay? So I'm not, even though there are some dangers and suggestions that this might be an appropriate thing out there, but yeah, the house is very much a symbol of stability. And as you get all the way to the last chapter of the book, you'll find out, the household, very much establishing her family, her life, her descendants, and so forth. There it becomes not just a physical building; it actually becomes a household. So one symbol of God's redemption and God showing that things will move forward in people's lives when they can have their own house and household, of course. And here's some of the Hebrew, and just picking some of the key things, some of the simpler things at this point. Hine Boaz, Hine Boaz, okay, and there it was, okay, and behold, King James came up with this a long time, and translators have kind of a hard time weaning themselves away. I like to use what I call the paleographic or root meaning of the hay, and which is a man standing with his hands out and up in the air in exclamation. And so it's fine with me, even though it doesn't quite sound exactly right in English. And hey, Boaz came, okay? Hey, stand there with your hands out, your exclamation, and saying, hey, take a note of this, okay? And hine, okay? When any prophet says hinani, hey, me, send me, the big step takes place, okay? So in a way, when you see hine, it's one way of signaling that an important step is taking place in the narrative, okay? And wow, take a look at this. Wow, when Boaz shows up, everybody turns around and stops and says hi or looks at him and greets him and so forth. It's a big deal when Boaz shows up, okay? Hine Boaz, Vayomer, and then he said, and then I put these two in, Vayomer and Vayomru, because it's just simply the difference between singular and plural. Okay, so just a very simple difference here. Okay, the male form of this masculine form of this verb will be yomer. The feminine will be tomer, and we do see that too. But here's yomer, and so this is a singular yomer, and then the plural is yomeru. Okay, right there. The surik on the end converts this one out to plural. So when Boaz says something, it's vayomer. And when the harvesters say something, it's vayomru, and then they said. Okay, it's a sequence here and this verb is used twice. In fact, look at that. It even has the same Miel El accenting on both of them. Boom. The accent is exactly the same. Jehovah bless you. Okay. Ve varecha, yevarecha, yevarecha, Yehovah. Okay? Yevarecha, Yehovah. I mentioned already in the other introduction that this is very much the same thing you see in Numbers. I think it's Numbers 7, verse 22, 23, somewhere in there. So Yevarecha, Yahweh, okay? Yehovah. May God bless you. Yevarecha. And then the questioning takes place on the part of Boaz talking to the servant, Nahara, Nashiv, and that is Lemi, to who. So this is a lamed of possessive lamed, okay? That's a preposition used for indicating possession of something, owning something. Lemi, to who. So this is an interrogative form here. Me, there's only 3 or 4 interrogative forms in Hebrew. There aren't a whole lot, so which helps in a great way because you only have to learn 2 or 3 forms for interrogatives. Okay, but here's one of them, one of the more simple ones. Lemi, to who? Okay? To who? For who? Hanara. We've seen Naar for the masculine, for the young man that was in charge of the. Here it is, right here. In fact, that's just nice. I think that's one of the reasons I put them together here. For Nara, the young woman, and Hanar, this is the young man. Okay, same thing here. Nar, and this one has also a prefixed article on the front here, and this is the feminine ending of this particular noun here, and the woman. Okay, and this is the young woman, the young man. Okay, Nara, Nar. Hazot, this one. Okay, take a good look at this zot because that's the feminine demonstrative. This one. Okay, this one. We're going to get into verse 7 and then goes ze, which happens to be masculine of that. But in the context, it's kind of like, oh, ze might also. We've seen that in Book of Ruth that sometimes masculine forms will work for the feminine. There, ze is there, and it's a little bit of a surprise, but also can be here or there. Okay, so as a place. But this one is as this woman. Okay, hazot, hanara hazot. this woman. Ve'anar ha nishav. What we have here is on. Incidentally, when you're reading the codex, this particular nun looks a whole lot like a Zion, and you're looking at it and you go Ya'as, and it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. When you figure it out, oh, the scribe really should make it. This nun's a little bit clearer. So here it is. But yeah, Anar, the young man, Ha Nitzav, the one who is in charge of, who is ruling, and it's nifo, so it's ruling in and of himself. He's ruling, reflexive sense of this particular verb, to be in charge, to control, to give orders, and so forth. Okay, Hanishav. And then this is the petition of Ruth, which it begins when this servant is telling what her petition had been. This is it. Yeah, this is the servant then is reporting on what Ruth had said here, and it is ala kotachna, okay, and that is let me glean, let me gather. And I've already said in the previous studies that this kof is symbolic of a rope which has a knot on the top and going into a field and knotting up sheaves of grain, and that's what this particular verb is doing. Let me go in, knot up sheaves of grain. So let me glean. Okay, ala kotach. Look at the ko here. This one's hatev patah. Okay, half patah, and so it's an O sound. This one's a full out comet. Hatev comets, hatev and comets. Normal comets. This is hatev patah. Comets. Hatev comets, and this one's comets. Okay, and this one will be A for hatev patah, A for patah, O for hatev comets, and A for comets, and A for comets. Okay, there we go. Really don't want to get bored people with how the vowels come together, but that's how it goes here. Allah kotachna. Please let me glean. Please let me gather things and tie things up. Okay? Allah kotachna. Va ajafe ya va ashafti va ashafti va omorim. Again, we see hatev comets, and then the same thing here. In fact, the vowel pointing of this one very similar here. Akata. This is ba omarim. This is normal comets here, normal A here. Hatev comets, that's an O, and then the normal comets here. Here's a metech to keep this first syllable separated, so you're going to pronounce this one as a normal comets. Okay? Ashifti, let me gather among the sheaves, between the sheaves. And this is the very last the 4 words of Ruth, chapter 2, verse 7, and that's Ze, Zivtach, Habayit, Me'at. And what you have here, the difficulty in translating this is this particular verb, the root of this particular verb can be derived from any one of these 3 that have listed here. If you're going to look things up in the dictionary, I'm not even sure which Blue Letter Bible, which one they choose. They have to choose one of them. They choose one of them. But this can be root of Yashav. Okay, if we consider the root of this Shivta, if we consider the root of this this particular noun to be Yashav, the translation is going to be she sat by it in the house, me'at, a little bit. Okay, she sat in the house a little bit. Okay? She sat a little bit. If we take this shin bet tau hey as rest, in other words, the root letters are there for that root here, Shin Bet Tau, Shive Tach. And then the root, of course, would be Shabbat. And Shabbat's very well known for taking a good rest. Okay, Shabbat. You find it in this particular version. You find it in Genesis 2 when the Lord rests. Okay, so Shabbat. She rested in the house. Habait Elil Me'at. Now, there's also a possibility, we've already seen this particular root about, 3 or 4 times in the first chapter, so it's a well-known root for our author and for the reader, and that is shuv, to return. In other words, there would be syncope, to drop the middle surik out here, and then you'll have shivata, she has returned. Okay? Ze shivata habayit me'at, she has returned to the house a little bit. Some translators even go so far as, she went back to Bethlehem for a rest at her house there, or her mother-in-law's place there. A little bit a tough slog as to figuring out what is the base root that is supposed to be here for this particular verb. Now, the ze me'at. Now, this is another translation, except that she rested a little. Okay, me'at. Habayit, in the shelter. Okay? Now, the straight out translation here is Habayit. That means the house, the house, the house. Some of the translations take a look at that. This isn't exactly a house, it's the shelter. It's a place that's been put up with in very temporary fashion with just some pieces of palm leaf tied together, and they're just simply for the shade. So that's why they would translate here shelter rather than house. But it is bait, okay, house, very much house. And I've expressed that this is the middle portion of how house is used in the passage. First one, you got house of the father, house of the mother, and then at the end you got house of I think it's Rachel, and house of Israel, and there it's again household, okay. But here is Habayit, the house. And as I said here, kate pausen inte argo mikron, and she has not rested or stopped stayed off a little bit. Kate pausen into argon, in the field, just a little bit. Okay, she has taken a short pause, or yeah. I find that here's an interesting translation. Go back to the King James. In the King James, she has tarried a little in the house. The word tarried. And you go, that's pretty unique. Well, it's very much an archaic word in the English language. Nobody uses the word tarry anymore. But if you hear it and understand what it is, okay, fine. She was there for a little while, resting and sitting there and living there for a little bit and so forth. She tarried. Okay, it's just simply a temporal time to stay somewhere, to take your time at a place. Okay, so you tarried there for a while, except for a short rest. Okay, Shabbat. Now, Latin here, the Vulgate here, stat in agro, stood in the field, et ne ad momentum, as up to a very small moment, quidem domen reverse es, but she has returned to the house. She has returned to the house. Now, either been in the field, come back to this house, or gone back to her own house, but she has returned reversa. She has reversed herself to go to a house. And here we'll get into the reading of the portion in Hebrew. V'hinei Boaz ba mebeit lechem v'yomer lekochrim Yehovah imechem v'yomru lo Yibracha Yehovah. And behold, and then it was evident. Okay, hey, take a look. Okay, Hine, Boaz makes an entry. This is this kind of word you would use for making an entry. Okay, Hine Boaz. Okay, and then Boaz showed up. Ba, he came. Mi Bet Lechem. Bet Lechem is house of bread, Bethlehem, and this mem is from. Okay, this is where he's coming from. It's a preposition of from Bethlehem. And he said, La Kochrim, to the harvesters, to the people cutting and gathering up the harvest. Yehovah imachem. Jehovah should be with you. Okay? Jehovah is with you. Jehovah should be with you. Okay? Yehovah imachem. Okay, the Lord be with you. Yomru, and then they said, lo, to him, Yebracha Yehovah. Okay, may God bless to you. Okay? Yebracha Yehovah. Like I said, it's very much the same way as they started the high priestly blessing from the book of Numbers. Well, Yomer, he said, Boaz, as Boaz says again, Lenaro, to the young man of him, has a possessive pronoun at the end of Naar here, to the young man of him. Ha Nitzav, the one who's in charge of, the one who's ruling over, to rule, to take care of, and it's a nifl, reflexive or passive. This is something he's doing in and of himself. Okay, Ha Nitzav al hakoshrim, over the harvesters. Lemi, to who? Okay, this is to who? To which one? To who? Does this child, who owns or who belongs this child to? Okay, so Hanara, that's a feminine form of Na'ar, this young woman. Hazot, this one. Okay, to who does this young woman belong? Okay, where does she belong? Where does she fit in? Ve'ya'an Hanar Hanishav al Hakotzrim Yomer Nara Mobia he Shava Im Naomi Mishde Moab. And what you have here then is, and he answered, okay, nice noon here, but in the codex this looks a lot like a Zion, but it's Yan, he answered. Very same verb found in the first chapter at the end where the Lord answers back very difficultly. Here's just a simple response to a question, okay, so it's just a very simple even-keeled word, and he answered, okay, Ve'yan Hanar, the young man, Hanishiv, who was in charge of Al HaKotzrim, over the harvesters, Vayomer, and he said, Na'ara, this young woman, okay, here you have young man, Hanar, Nun Ein Resh, and here you have young woman, Na'ara. Okay, so this young woman, Moabiyah, she's a Moabite, okay, the Moabite woman. He, her, okay. In English, he sounds like he, but in Hebrew, he is she. Okay, so he is she. Hu is him. Okay, so nice time to swap it out in terms of pronouns here. But anyway, he is she. Then, okay, Moabio, he, she. Shava, she has returned. Okay, and since we're talking about places and people and journeys and so forth, this root here very obviously is she has returned, shuv. The root will be shin sodik bet, but this one is the one who has been returning. Be preposition feminine singular form of with participle, singular feminine form of participle with an article in front of it. Hashava, she's the one who has been returns. Im Naomi, with Naomi, Mishde, from the field of Moab, Very much a construct connection here, but this is singular noun, and it's going to stay the same in singular. In plural, you'd have it down to a ascetic yod, but here in the singular, it's going to be just Mishde, Moab, from a field in Moab. Tomer, then she said, and this is the report that the young man's giving us to what Ruth had said. Tomer, and she said, Al lakotach na. Let me gather, please. Okay, na is the hortatory, please. I would like to gather. Ve'ashavti, and I will gather. Okay, I will gather. Ashav is to gather things together. Like I said, the family of Asaph are the ones who gather things together, gathering songs, gathering singers, making choirs. So those have Asaph. I consider this one a Yosef verb. Yosef is to add on. Okay, so you have the ability to add on. In this place is adding on by gathering things together. Okay? Yeah, Ashafti, Balmorim in among the sheaves. Okay, Balmorim, this is ones that are already standing, which is uh, quite a petition, but probably means you got a sheaf standing here, you got a sheaf standing there, and she's gathering the fallen grain between them. Grain that would have been lost to the birds anyway, she's there to gather up that grain. Balmorim, Aher, behind, Hakotzrim, behind the harvesters. Tavo, and she has come. Okay, Tavo, this is third person feminine singular. Okay, she came. Vetamod, and she has stood. Okay, and me'az, from the time or from the hard time. Okay, az. Okay, me'az haboker, of the morning, from the beginning of the morning. Haboker, the morning. Boker should be a Miel's accenting. Boker. When you do this one in a Milra accenting, you've got cattle. But if you got a Milel, you've got the morning. Okay, from the morning, Boker. Ve'ad ata, and until now. Ze, this one, she. This is what's happening. Shibita, she has Shibita, she has sat. She has returned. She has rested. Okay, Shabbat, Shivita, Shin Bet Tau. So there are three possible roots of this particular verb. It's a verb, but one of them is she has sat, she has rested. Shabbat, she has rested, and the shuv, she has returned. Okay, and the house, habayit. Okay, this is literally the house, bait, same as anything. We've seen this one twice at the start: house of the father, house of the mother, Beit Ima, Beit Avia, Avicha, and we also seen it 3, 4, 5 times as Beit Lechem, house of bread. Okay, and to have a house at this point means stability, and to be able to sit somewhere and just take a little rest means you belong. And so this is very, very, very symbolic. We don't know, if we're going to translate it, what kind of house? Just simply a little covering with a shade, or was it actually a place that had a lot of things? And when you look at all the things that they were doing through the rest of the chapter, yeah, there's apparently space and things gathered at this house for to provide cover for people working in the field. Okay? Habait me'at, as a little time, just for a little while. Okay, me'at. So what we have, it's an interesting thing of having to choose here which one will fit or which one it should be based on the structure of the passage. It can be any one of those that I've mentioned, Yashav, Shuv, or Shabbat. It's the Shabbat one. And I'm willing to actually use two of them. She rested, or she sat and rested. Okay, sat and rested. In other words, you can get Yashav, and you can get, if you want to have all three of them. And she returned, and she sat down, and she rested. If you want all three roots of what the possible roots of this particular verb, we're going to have to choose one or two of those. But I think the key one is Shabbat, to rest. She has not had rest. Had a very agitated life. She's had a very hard life. Her father-in-law has died. Her husband has died. Brother-in-law has died. Naomi's all upset and angry. She now needs Shabbat. She now needs rest. And the rest of the story moves forward, so the good Lord will provide her with the rest she needs as she cares for her family and as she becomes part of the genealogy of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. So may God bless, may God strengthen you, and when you need rest, may God give it to you. May God strengthen you in this day. God bless you, and until the next time.